Hey everybody, I don't know about you, but as you've watched out over the world, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not just isolated to Eastern Europe. It's spread all over the world, and you can see it in market instabilities. You can see it here. People who do not think that that war is affecting you, all you got to do is look at gas prices. You look at your food prices. You see the global change that has happened. But you know something that's also affected investments as well. And I've said all along, legacy precious metals is your navigator. They're the ones that see you through to get to the next level. The good news about this is even with market volatility, market instability, you've got options. And gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold. And gold presents a hedge against this inflation and that protects you against the weakening dollar, which we are seeing. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust to deal with gold and silver and the other precious metals. You need this investment. You need this as part of your portfolio to keep you buffered from what we're seeing in the world, war and volatility in the market. This is where you need to be. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive about this. Get on board with it. Call them at 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. legacypminvestments.com, your navigator in a volatile world of investments.
Do you want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
Everybody, welcome back. It is Friday's Finest. Yes, we've got a lot of things to talk about, but today I got to start it out. The week, we look back on the week and we find things that are amazing or interesting. And this is just one in which the voting public of Chicago has finally spoken. The voting public of Chicago figured out after 4 years of Lori Lightfoot, there could be better. I mean, I don't know how they could have not figured this out to begin with. But Lori Lightfoot's been the mayor of Chicago for the past 4 years. She was up for re-election this past week. And look, as someone who's been on the ballot, someone who's won and lost on a ballot, I sympathize. But what is frustrating to me is Lori Lightfoot has done everything she possibly can to blame everybody else but herself for the problems in Chicago. And it finally showed up at the voting booth, and they said 84% of the people voted against Lori Lightfoot. Now, this is an incumbent mayor in Chicago, first incumbent mayor to lose in over 40 years. She got 16% of the vote. She missed the runoff. Two others are going to be in the runoff that did in a little bit for that race. But it just goes to show that people are getting tired of cities that don't combat violence, that don't look after public safety, that don't do these kind of things. So, look, today on Friday's Finest, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but you just got to look at this and understand that folks want to be safe. This is what we've been highlighting here on the show. Lightfoot's ineptitude has been highlighted here on the podcast before, but I just had to start off here today and also get back to one other thing. And we're going to discuss this here in just a few minutes on the podcast as well. But with James, the man, the Texas by way of New Jersey, coming into us today. And as we take Friday's Finest this week has to include Lori Lightfoot's defeat. But again, even in this defeat, 84% of Chicagoans who voted said they don't want somebody else other than Lori Lightfoot. You know what she blamed? Gender and race. I quit. No, Lori Lightfoot. The reason you got beat was not because your gender and your race. The reason you got beat is because you were incompetent. And people believed you to be incompetent. When this country gets over the what of blaming everything else, we will be much better off. In the words of Jocko Willink, take extreme ownership. Ownership of what you do, ownership of what you are. And when we do that in our government, our business, and our families, we all will prosper. Lori, it would be a good idea to go and read that as you plan for what you're going to do afterwards. I wish you the best afterward. I wish bad on no one. But I am glad you're not going to be mayor of Chicago anymore. With that, it's time to kick off Friday's Finest. All right, James, welcome Friday's Finest. It's here. We're here. We made it through another week. Wow. Is it just me, or does things seem to just keep going faster and faster?
Yeah, it's going too fast. The month of February kicked my butt, and I'm like, oh, it's already March. And
Yeah,
now I have a little cold, and I'm like, March is going to be just as bad. Here we go.
Well, the first Friday in March. I mean, we're first up here. We got a lot going on, and as I mentioned in the intro, the Lightfoot stuff out of Chicago was really heartening to me. That people finally are taking a look at this and realizing you just can't not enforce the law and blame everybody else, and people do actually get it. But a lot of things up today. Got some special things I want to talk about here on Friday, and we just go back and forth. But I have to start with one that sort of blew me away. I sent this to you. You don't care because you're not an Apple person, but
that's right. I'm not a sheep like the rest of you.
Oh, now we're getting the sheep. Oh, okay. I get it.
My brother lives and dies by it. So anyway, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I get this text, and I think you and we sent it along the other day. That is Apple, for whatever reason, back in the during the fall, around the daylight saving time, they had that big Apple update. For those of us on Apple, we're pretty used to getting these updates. Okay. What's interesting is, and this started coming out on social media. My son Cameron, he sent this out, and it was on iPhone. It's charging. What we're finding was people having trouble charging your phone. So if you're out here on the Doug Collins podcast today and you're having trouble, you've had issues with your phone charging, and my wife has actually had this, and now we're looking at it a little bit differently. There's a reason. And the reason is Apple has decided, inadvertently and unannounced to you, at least overtly, that they have decided to be the energy police. They've decided that with a company is not green enough, or they don't use enough of what they term renewable energies, or during the day where you save energy costs, they will just do it for you. They will basically shut down your charging and not allow you to charge to full capacity if they believe this clean energy charging is not enough, if they think it's not getting enough grid off the solar or wind or water or whatever they do it. The interesting part about this is, if you go to, and I thought they were joking. Okay, James, how many times, James, over the years have we seen, the outrage on social media about something some company has done or some woke initiative, and it turned out to be not what you expected?
Of course. Of course.
Well, I said, okay, yeah, right. Okay, all right. My son sent it to me. So I went and to my settings. I went to where down it says to the battery. It comes up in battery health and charging. I look into it, and guess what? There is a clean energy charging button. And it says, in your region, iPhone will try to reduce your carbon footprint by selectively charging when low carbon emission electricity is available. iPhone learns from your daily charging routine so it can reach your full charge before you need to use it. The company that was started with a mass video in the 80s, 83, 84, of people, sheep, as you say, in a theater, and someone throwing a sledgehammer through Big Brother's screen, is now implanting into your iPhone without telling you, without letting you know, without making a production about it, that they're going to limit how your phone is charged.
Doug, the real question here, here's the real question. What's worse, this or when they forced the U2 album onto everyone's iPhone and wouldn't let you take it off?
Now we're going to get to U2 today. It's so funny. You should mention that, James. We're going to get to U2 here in a little bit. But, I would agree with you. That was one that you didn't. Now, if it had been an earlier album like October, Boy, War, Under a, Unforgettable Fire, those, okay, fine. Not the newer stuff. But, James, what is it? When did it believe? Because we're in two different generations, okay? I come from a generation in which business was basically business. And I'm not being glowy-eyed here and dewy-eyed for the past. The past had its problems just like everybody else, okay? You can't go back in time and everything be perfect again. Life moves forward. That's the reason life exists, okay? by the way, the clinical definition, I don't know if you know this, James. Here's an interesting one for you. The clinical definition for change is for death is no change.
One more time. The clinical definition of death is no change.
In other words, death, like if your body doesn't change, you don't breathe, your heart doesn't beat, if nothing about your body is
you're dead.
Doing anything, so to speak, no change, brain activity, is dead. It's clinical death. Okay? So let's get over the fact that things change. I'm sitting in a studio now in my house looking at a camera that probably when I was a teenager would have cost $50,000 to have, with lights, with a computer that has more power than the original Saturn astronauts had.
Absolutely.
Change happens. But when did it become popular, James, for companies to do things like this?
Doug, I mean, you got to think of it. Okay, first of all, this is more of like, this one's sneaky and it's weird. It's a strange, like, I don't know how often this is happening per se, but I mean, think about how we are. I don't want to use ads as an example, but ads are just everything you do now, right? YouTube used to be free. Now there's ads. Hulu at one point, I believe, was free or whatever it was. And now there's ads and you got to pay and all this stuff, right? This is like something that iPhone feels, okay, we're going to get away with this. It's not going to be a big issue. It's just a small thing. But the issue is, regardless if it's a small thing or not, this is the thing that turns into a big thing. And next thing you know, and I don't know what a good example is, but next thing you know, you're like, oh, I didn't want that feature. Why is that costing me $3.99 a month? Something similar and small like that can turn into something big.
Well, the other thing, James, is here is too. Look, I understand something. There are privacy issues attached to iPhones. There's privacy attached to the other Android-based phones like you have and others. In fact, I'm going to say it here on the program, and most people don't realize this, but if you want to be tracked, the Android-based phones actually track you personally much closer than the iPhone does.
Oh, 100%. They have all my – listen, I'm under the full belief that they have all my information, and if the government eventually or Android wants to blackmail me, they're going to do it. So They have all my stuff. There's nothing I can do about it. That's what I did when I gave up, when I asked for a nice phone that I can watch movies on.
Well, I think the funny thing here is this opens up something that I was finding out when I was in Congress, and I got several briefings, from competitors. Sometimes you get these kind of things. But in looking at phones now, and I'm just going to be generic here, Android tends to be the worst here. Apple has the same issue. That from a perspective of stalking, if you would, okay, imagine the information that can be gleaned from an iPhone or an Android-based phone or others for divorce attorneys, for police and criminal investigations. The input mechanisms in your iPhones, in these Androids are a lot of it based on.
It's a never-ending source of your information.
They can tell what floor you're on in a high-rise building.
Yes, of course.
Based on barometric pressure. I mean, this is how sensitive this stuff gets.
I mean, just think about, like, just not even, let's just say it's not your phone, like something like Snapchat, right? Snapchat, you can show your location and show where you are. I turn that off because I don't want people to know where I am all day.
Right.
But, it's just like, it's the kind of thing where, like, yeah, okay, that's something that could be fun for some people. And it's like, okay, it's harmless. My friends know I'm out in New York City having a good time.
Yeah.
But then you forget to turn it off, and and next thing you know, you're trying to hide from your friends, and you're trying to, get something for your. Let's say you're going to get something nice for your wife, and she goes, "Why are you in sales today?" Well, surprise, ruined. You went on my Snapchat, found out where I am because I forgot to turn the location off. Like something simple like that is stupid, but like, and at any time, like, and I'm not saying somebody's trying to harm you, but like they can find out where you are too, and that's all. It's all encompassed. There's good and there's awful.
Well, there is. And I think, look, we get into it, but I think the thing that you really get into when you're starting looking at these issues of energy, this whole process of, my phone charging or not charging, depending on, renewable or clean source energy. Okay. I am not opposed to clean source energy. We've got a hybrid vehicle in our family. I mean, we turn off the lights. We do the things that we can do. We keep the thermostats at different temperatures. Again, I guess I'm having just a problem. I'm tired of government and I'm tired of businesses forcing upon me how they want me to act. Now, before any of you out there go to DougCollinsPodcast.com and hit the email button, or you go to social media, Rep Doug Collins on Twitter or Instagram, Rumble, the YouTube page, wherever, I get it. They're already there. I make fun of it too, that they're listening to everything we do. But at a certain point in time, some of this has just really gotten to the point, especially from, I would say that my generation, X generation, and others, we're just tired of it. We've seen what bad things can happen in these environments. And we're not as, and James, I appreciate how you talked about earlier that, this just follow along to get along. And coming off of a pandemic of 3 years in which we were told a lot of stuff, told to do a lot of stuff, and now we're finding out in hindsight more and more about this. Look, this Apple's got to be more sensitive. I enjoy the Apple product. I've been a part of it. But to me, companies need to be more sensitive, in my mind at least, that they can't just do this without at least in some ways notifying. By the way, this is hitting the internet now that it's been put out there. I know John Rich, one of the country music singers, was on Twitter talking about it yesterday and everything. So it's not going away, folks. But if you don't have this, go to your battery settings. If you have an iPhone, go to battery, go to your settings. It'll come up there. You'll see it right there. The battery health and energy. You'll see it. And do what you want to do. If you want to leave it on, God bless you, go at it. But that's your choice. But again, when you're having some issues with people with batteries charging, just because the company doesn't like where you get your electricity, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. The idea is that it shouldn't start off as an option that you have to turn off. It should be an option you choose to put on. That's the difference. That's it.
All right. James, you got one before I go into the next one?
All right, before we get into what you got going on, I'm just going to briefly. So I live in Dallas. Or people know that, I think, at this point, and we know that a couple months ago we had the zoo incidents.
No, we're back to the Dallas zoo. We need zoo intro music here.
I'm going to get. Yeah, I mean, I was raised on the Bronx Zoo, so I'm just going to get the sounds they did for the reptile museum. But anyway, so it turns out I'm looking on I follow a page on Instagram, Dallas News or whatever the case, Dallas TV, whatever it's called. And they give you updates about everything going on in the area. And some guy posted up on his phone and he said, I believe there's a monkey in this tree. And it really looks like a monkey in this tree. Like it really does. But the kicker is that he said in his post, "Is this native to Dallas?" Doug, when I read that, I just couldn't fathom. I'm hoping he's joking, but if he's not, my God, what a moron! Is this native to Dallas? Yes, it is. You know what?
Yeah, you see him on every street.
You found the native Dallas monkey, you moron. Anyway, I just thought that was hilarious. I hope it's out and it's enjoying itself out in the Dallas summertime. It really does look like a monkey. I don't know what it is. It wasn't very clear, but if it is, I hope he's safe and hopefully headed back to the zoo because we all know that's where he was from.
Well, anyway. well, no, not necessarily. Some think he came from North Dallas.
Yeah, it could have just been the native monkeys that live here. Unbelievable. Oh my God. Anyway.
God. Okay, yeah. Well, you've just given me an idea for a Friday Finest segment at some point, dealing with either these stupid ideas and criminals or just what people think and say. It's just like, huh?
We could do 2 hours on that just on Florida alone.
Well, we can. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. You mentioned Florida. Speaking of Florida, because I was down there this past weekend, and my son now lives down in Naples, and we were coming back up through. But this is a sad note. Did you see where that 10-foot alligator attacked the woman walking her dog and killed her?
No. What?
Yes. South Florida, older lady out walking her dog. 10-foot alligator came in, got her, pulled her underwater, killed her. Dog survived, but my understanding.
Are you telling me she was just walking along
in
a riverbank?
In a neighborhood. Yeah, my son actually had to sign a release in his neighborhood in Naples because South Florida, a lot of water and everything else.
Right.
That they wouldn't be held responsible for alligators stuff.
Do you imagine when you're signing that, you're like, I shouldn't be signing this. I should
Yeah,
hold them accountable for alligator attacks.
exactly. But the river comes right up near their apartment complex, and yeah, that was one of the interesting signing amendments of Salvador. But yeah, this poor lady got killed. They went and got. Of course, they had to go get the alligator because just like from my understanding, and again, if I'm wrong, if you're out there and you know more about alligators, please email us here at the show or comment on our post. That like bears and others, wolves, others, in the West, if they get into attack humans, that they have to put them down because they develop. I mean, they don't have their barrier.
Is that right? I didn't know they have to put them down. But
yeah, they pretty much because what they found is there's no barrier to them attacking again.
Right. So once they've done it once, it's like
yeah.
Yeah, that's
once you do it once, you're gonna do it again, kind of thing as we go. So again, lots of little, little different things in coming up between monkeys in Dallas, which are not native, by the way. Alligators in Florida, yes, native. Okay, at least we'll clarify that one. But again, just don't even get me started. If we go out west, where you got people wanting to reintroduce the wolves back into urban areas and areas close to people. I mean, folks, let me just give you a real hint. Wild wolves are not pets.
Yeah, listen. This is something I have. I am an animal lover to the nth degree. And I know people have wolf dogs, and those are not safe animals. They're just not. I've had pit bulls my whole life. Pit bulls are not safe animals. But I know how to train them. I can take care of them, and I know the limits. Okay. Yep. Any dog can be dangerous. My friend got bit by a golden retriever. That thing is like the Troy Aikman of dogs.
Oh my God, the Viking slamming the Cowboys.
Just an all-American blonde-haired guy. That's what does. But in reality, like the thing is, like with reintroducing wolves, people pretending they're pets. Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea how big a wolf is? And how much stronger they are than anything you've ever had, and how they own that house or own that area. These people.
Well, the problem is they don't know, James. I mean, literally, they need to go look it up. Go look up what a real wolf looks like. Okay, if you go back to those, what was it? There was the episode of Jason Bourne in which Matt Damon wasn't in it, Rennick was in it. But there was that wolf those wolves, and there's been other. They're everybody thinks of a wolf as a German Shepherd. Okay, they're not, and they're about 3 times bigger. Than your biggest German Shepherds. I mean, but anyway, folks, look, animal. We all have a proper place, and I've got plenty of hunter friends, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. Conservation and all. You don't let just. For all of you out there who running wild saying, "Oh, we can't kill anything. Animals are humans too." I saw a video the other day with Grant Stinchfield. Grant Stinchfield's been on the show before. He's a former on Newsmax. I think he's got a podcast here with us at Salem on the Salem faculty as well. But he was outside a rodeo where you had these animal activists in Dallas, by the way, wanting to release the bulls. That the bulls were being mistreated.
And what are you going to do? Where are you going to release them? What are you out of your mind? Are you going to release them in Dallas, Center City, Dallas? Just let them go down the street?
Yeah, I mean, but do you think? Look, British Columbia, they have no hunting on brown bears up there. The grizzlies, they don't have hunting because they thought it was too bad. I tell you, in about 2 or 3 years, they're going to have hunting again. Or here's what's going to happen. Here's what the insidious part about this is, and I'm not sure how we got down this path, but I'm going to take us down this path. The insidious part here is this is government determining later on we're going to have to kill these animals on what they'll call controlled killings, in which the government and not private enterprise and not hunters, who have been the hallmark of conservation in this world for thousands upon thousands of years, the government is wanting their control of it, and they're taking this away. I mean, the stupidity of people who believe that you can just let bears, just let all the animals basically run wild, and not having it's just stupid. But this information, this guy had a mask on. He was, just cussing up a storm at Stinchfield, who was in another interview, by the way. I mean, folks, if you never understood it, the bulls in a pro rodeo are very valuable assets to their owners. Once they are through in the rodeo circuit, depending on how good they are, especially, they are put into pasture for stud. In other words, to make more bulls.
Yeah, the
They
bulls
are
live
worth.
their life after that.
Oh, all they looking for is ladies and having fun. I mean, they are worth. Some of those bulls are millions of dollars of worth to their owner. Their
Yeah.
owner is not mistreating them.
No,
So again,
no. Listen, look. I saw a video the other day, made me laugh really hard. It was like, there are people that think like cows that are milked are mistreated, and there's always an example of someone doing the wrong thing. We cannot ignore that. But like the guy was joking, and he was like with his cow, which I mean, he clearly had like a relationship with this animal, and he was like pretending to jump on it and punch it and be like, "This is how people think we treat our animals,"
yeah,
and this is not the case. There, like, I see so many people taking care of animals, and look, again, I'm saying 100 times, there's always the bad apple, but there's so many good people, and they're doing good things, and they're taking care of animals, and we're concerned. Where the conservation's through the roof in America, and around the world, hopefully. Yeah, there's poachers, they're bad people, but there's also people taking care of those animals and trying to bring certain animals back. I mean, think about the woolly mammoth right now. I know we're going down a weird path here, but
like
they're bringing back.
the megalodon or whatever.
They're bringing back. They want to bring back the woolly mammoth. Now that sounds insane. Why would we do something like that? Apparently, if we do this, and I don't know if this is going to work or not, but where they were native, it's going to bring back the ecosystem that was once there, and it's going to help now. That's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe it's going to work. I kind of hope it does, because it would be so cool if we just got woolly mammoth rolling around. But then there's the people that are going to bring back the dodo bird, and those animals are useless.
Yeah.
They're useless animals.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing. And again, folks, look, this is the purpose of what we talk about, James and I talk about on Fridays, is we go through stuff you normally don't see in the news. Because, again, what is really interesting, one of my favorite scenes in one of the movies of all time is Men in Black. James, you remember the movies Men in Black?
Oh, absolutely. I love.
Okay, remember the first one? When Tommy Lee Jones' character, they go and after they're trying to figure out what's going on, and he goes to the newsstand in New York City, and he pulls off the Inquirer, the Post, and all the
the Inquirer, and he says, "This is where all the good stuff is."
Yeah, he said, "This is where we get our leads from." Well, folks, we're James and I are pioneers forecasting the future here. Between Apple in your phones, between non-native monkeys in Dallas. Crocodiles, everything else. This is where you get it, folks. And again, it goes to this idea of either government has to have control, or that the person, the individual, is God in some ways. And you look at this, it's just amazing, what you see here. But anyway, turning from the adventures in the Dallas Zoo, which is going to become a regular theme in our program here, the adventures of the Dallas Zoo. I want to turn to something interesting. It's sort of it's a hot topic right now, and I just want to get a couple of hot takes here. The presidential race is full throttle, and for the Republican side, there's people getting in, all the time. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Joe Biden is still trying to figure out, is he running? Last night, he basically said he was, and he kicked off and I'm not going to touch on this long, but I'm about tired of Joe Biden going back and saying, we're going to come get all your automatic weapons and all your automatic stuff. Look, at the end of the day, folks, it's time we quit blaming the instrument. It's time we look at cities and we look at our home environments. We look at the structure of people and realize that for lots of different reasons, but a social structure breakdown has occurred in the last 40 years in this country. I went to high school in which people would bring pocket knives. We had knives to school. There would be people in the parking lot who had deer rifles because they were going hunting in the afternoon, or they go, whatever. Those were in there. And we didn't think about using those. Okay, there was an understanding and a moral code of people's life have value. And just because these are used by stupid people to do dumb things, killing people are horrific acts, and they need to be held accountable for those acts. Biden in this, I'm going to get your guns and we're going to solve all your problems. Is it really it just flies in the face of those parents and those people who are grieving because somebody did something stupid? And, look, as we get into this presidential season, we're going to see a lot of stupid. and Biden's got nothing else to run on. So what they're going to try and do is scare you to death on Social Security, Medicare, guns, and everything else. But on the Republican side, James, we have a new addition that is non-traditional. And the question I've come, and you and I, again, we approach this from different generational looks. I am wondering now, what is the Republican message going to be? And we have a new candidate who announced about 10 days ago, Vivek Ramaswamy, and he is known as the woke CEO. I don't know how far he's going to go. He's made a lot of noise on social media. He's doing the circuit and talking about different things. But the message seems to be one that it's been out there before. It's like what you and I have talked about before about the bumper sticker. He talks about, well, we don't need the Department of Education. Okay, Rick Perry said that 8 years ago. Most Republicans have said that for a long time. Are we just revisiting this, or what's the issue? Well, we don't need Department of Energy. Okay, well, we've dealt with that one before. We've dealt with the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. He's an interesting voice, younger voice. But James, is the younger generation and my generation going to come together on a candidate that is older, like say a Donald Trump, a former president who still holds a lot of sway in the Republican Party? Or you got Nikki Haley, Tim Scott probably getting in, the Mike Pence, Pompeo. Ramaswamy actually presents a difference. I mean, where are we going to get past the talking points in this campaign?
There's Doug. This is whether you're Republican or Democrat. This is the issue, and it's the generational gap. Especially in the Republican Party, right? It feels like there's just not a young audience.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there. Just to make that clear, they are out there.
Right.
But it feels like they're not being seen or heard by the party. And I think that's always going to be the issue. And that's why you always see a lot of younger people on the left.
Yeah. Well, the question I have, James, is this. Is a Vivek Ramaswamy, who is young, who seems to be energetic, who knows how to use the social media platforms. You see his stuff all over the place. But at the end of the day, what new is he bringing to the table? I mean, if your
that's
idea
the thing. What is it new that he can bring to it? What could you bring that's new? That's the issue.
Well,
more than for him personally, we just did on another show we did an interview with him, and he was the same guy prior to me turning on the cameras as he was when he got on the cameras, and I think that's important, most important. But I think the thing is, he wants to claim that he's not going to be like he is a fan of Donald Trump's, right? That's his claim. Right. He's a fan of Donald Trump, and he wants to run things that way, but he wants to run things like a CEO. He wants to run this country without he obviously get rid of all the wokeness and all that. That's where he's going to get the trying to get a younger group is like, hey, those of you who can't stand the wokeness, come to us. But he's also making it clear that to the older generation, like he's got Donald Trump's mindset, and I think that is again, he doesn't have to mention the issues. That's the thing. If it's less about the issues and more about how you can view him as a person and how he might run this country without putting the issues aside.
Well, and looking at that too, I think you see him as a person. I had somebody the other day basically say, and again, it sort of comes down to this. I think it came down with Obama, it came down with Bush, it came down with a lot of and it's the old sort of proverbial. Do I want to have a beer with this guy? Is there a relatability to average voters? Donald Trump has it. Bottom line, out there, Donald Trump has it. I don't care. What side, if you don't recognize that, you may disagree with everything he believes. You may be a Republican who believes that he did great things and wants, and thought that he helped a straight deal, but yet you may not want to see him run again. I don't care where you're at in the spectrum. You got to admit Donald Trump relates to people. And if you don't believe it, look at what he did at East Palestine a week ago when he actually went there and toured it around and went to those McDonald's, went to those places. People relate to him. Okay. I think you've got the first step here with Vivek I'm not sure Haley relates. Nikki Haley, great governor. I mean, she's she did a good job in South Carolina. I think her again. I'm not seeing the new. This is what I guess I'm looking at from these candidates. But even Tim Scott, I love Tim. Tim is a great guy. Senator Tim Scott is wonderful. He'll bring a different message, a different perspective. It'll be interesting to see how he would do in this. Pence, Pompeo, I just am not hearing a little bit of the newness to say, okay, hey, we acknowledge, as you said, this younger group, we acknowledge the older. Because like my first question to Vivek Ramaswamy would be, where are you on defense? I mean, I'm in the military for 20 plus years. Just got selected full bird colonel. I mean, I've been to Iraq. I've done it. Where do you fall on the bigger issues that are hard to put on a bumper sticker? How do you think these candidates can relate that to different generations? And how would something like that affect a younger generation, James?
See, I guess, again, this is the issue. It's like, what does he have to say to a younger generation to make them vote, like, one, Republican in general, but the ones that are Republican, what do they not want to hear? What is the stuff that, like, you did? What did you say before? Get rid of the education. Get rid of
Department of Education, Department of Energy,
okay.
Commerce.
Is that if he says something like that, is that going to spark a young person's interest? No. Maybe they don't have kids. Maybe they don't have.
Let me break in there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm breaking in on that because I've had this serious question before. I don't think the Department of Education ought to be there. It was a gift to the teachers unions from Jimmy Carter. Plain simple, bought and paid for. Sure. That's all that was. Okay. They sit in Washington. They distribute money. If you wanted to even keep the distribution part, put it under Commerce or put it under somewhere else, just to do the grants. Take everybody else, and you can be done with it. Let the education system be, standardized in the states, in national. Those kind of things can come from there. Okay. I get it. But also, I'm going to also bring a different perspective here. By saying that and having other Republicans harp on that, are we not giving the left the opportunity to say you're anti-education? Because when you simply say depart from the education needs to be done away with, it's a waste of money, but yet you don't talk about educating and training young minds. You don't talk about little boys and girls who need to be educated in math, reading, science, those kind of things. And you're not talking about school choice. You're not talking about giving parents the opportunity to put their people where, their kids where they need to be and want to be. Are we missing the opportunity to complain about one thing, the gripe and moan syndrome, instead of offering here's my gripe and moan, but here's my solution? Yeah,
it's the solution. I was just going to say the solution is most important. How many, Doug, how many teachers do you have in your life?
Oh, a bunch. My wife was a retired teacher, my brother, my sister-in-law, my
there you
other
go.
sister-in-law.
I have probably 5 in my life. Okay?
Yep.
They're the ones that are also going to be voting. They're the ones that are going to, stuff like that. And you talk about getting rid of education. Do most of them want that gone? I don't know. I don't know how everybody feels. Everybody's different. But come up with a solution rather than just say, we're getting rid of this. Okay, well, then what's the next step? Talk to me. Explain it to me. Give me the information I need as a teacher. Give me the information I need as a parent for my kids. Like you said, with school choice. You have to. Again, you have to come up with a solution. You can't talk around the issue, and that's the most important thing. That's how you draw people in. I know that's pretty much standard, but
yeah. Well, I think it's gonna happen. We're gonna have some conversations with some of these folks. We've got some invitations out, here on the podcast. So look, my question is not, to downplay these folks running, but I am very serious because I travel all over the country. In the next couple of weeks, few weeks, I'm gonna be speaking at some GOP groups in North Carolina and Georgia and other places. And this is the questions that I'm raising. These are the things that I want us to deal with. Okay. We need to deal with election integrity. Yes, we need to deal with, all these kind of things. But at a certain point in time, if we're not giving a message that resonates with voters who could give 2 rats pennies on what we think is a party, and they're more concerned, rightfully so, for their own lives, then we're missing the mark on there.
And by the way, real quick, before we move on with Biden and trying to talk about taking away the guns, I just thought about this earlier. How narrow-minded is it to think that 50%. So let's say he thinks that 50, because they say that it's divided equally, 50% Republican, Democrat, right?
Yeah, roughly.
How narrow-minded are you to think that 50%, so 100% of your base wants guns taken away?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you're losing people when you say that. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, also the simple fact is not all Democrats want to ban your guns. Okay.
No, that's my point. Like, so many, most of the people in my life are Democrats. Like, they love their guns.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna be fair. Not all Republicans want to keep guns. Okay, I'm gonna be fair. There's some these red flag laws and everything else. But look, it's just bad that we've gotten into this point where these have become we find the 4 to 5 pivots, and I get it. Look, nobody out there for you want to go off on me, fine, go right ahead. But I've been in politics. I know these campaigns. I know how to run campaigns. You're going to find messages at work. Consultants are paid to win campaigns based on what message the voter is resonating with. Right. But at a certain point in time, there has to be more than just this is the freshest, newest face. I mean, folks, look, I'm not a fan of the Obama administration at all for many of the policies. I'm not talking about him personally, his family, his husband, irrelevant. Mine is policy based on his belief that government is better and free enterprise is not. But remember, we got President Obama from zero background, okay? And so I'm going to say the same for Donald Trump, but although I would have to say Donald Trump at least had almost 40 years of being in the public spotlight. You sort of knew where he stood before he ever got there, okay? Barack Obama was not. And I know people in the state legislature that was with him in the state legislature in Illinois who still to this day can't believe he was president for 8 years. Okay. But this is, again, my point, and we're going to talk about this more and more, but I wanted to bring this out, with this new, Vivek, who is, the anti-woke CEO is the way he's known. He's all over. You've heard him on interviews. We're hopefully going to have him on here on the Doug Collins podcast as well. We'll see as it goes. All right. And now coming to the end, we always like to end on, I like to end on a note. Before we get there, James, anything?
Listen, the only thing that it matters in my life right now is finding out if Aaron Rodgers is going to leave the Packers. He just came out of his cave a couple days ago. You know about this, right?
Yeah, well, somebody turned on the light switch, I guess.
Yeah, he was in there for like a day, 2 days, trying to find out what ayahuasca can do for the second time. And as it turns out, he'll leave the NFC North, and I never have to see him again. Anyway. That's the only thing I care about this week.
Well, it is it. By the way, your Vikings got rated as the best family organizational in the NFL Players Association rankings.
The best family organization?
Yeah, the best of travel, family, clubhouse, everything else. Yep.
You know what? That warms my heart. And still, no one will go there because it's -8 degrees for half.
But you know who's the worst, or one of the worst?
Okay, all right. I think I know this. Okay. Is it the Cleveland Browns?
Nope, Arizona.
Oh, okay, but that's because it's Arizona.
Yeah. Well, but it was that they they don't want to have whatever But anyway, I thought that was just an interesting
that is interesting. I'm going to look that up later. Go ahead. Anyway.
All right, cool. All right, last up. We're in anniversary mode, and this is a big one for me. And I made allusion to this earlier in the podcast when James brought up U2 and Apple, unfortunately putting it on everybody's playlist. But U2, very pivotal band in my upbringing, one that is a high schooler going into college, especially the 80s. An amazing band. They've been, 40 plus years now going on. I'm frank. I'm not a fan of the 90s U2 version with Zooropa and all those kind. I'm just not. The 80s, 70s, late 70s, early 80s, big fans of. Some of their later stuff, on and off, been a big fan of as well. But pivotal time, I think, from a historical perspective, this is the 40th year anniversary for their third album, War. This is the one that had New Year's Day, Sunday Bloody Sunday. It came out in February. The New Year's Day cut came out, and then the New Year's Day album, followed by one of the most iconic concerts you could ever want to watch. Go and pick it up. You can find it probably on social media, YouTube or wherever. I had it on, and James, okay, this shows you how old I am. I had this on VHS. Okay?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
The concert at Red Rocks. U2 live at Red Rocks under a blood red sky. Phenomenal show. I mean, just freaking phenomenal. If you're a fan of live music, go find it. You'll love it. 40-year anniversary of war beginning on that. Also, we mentioned this last week on the show, and did you know that this was the 40th anniversary of the final episode of MASH?
How old does that make you feel when you say that out loud?
Real old, because I was 16, 17 when it happened. But
if I tell my mother that, she's going to be like, "Shut up! I'm not that old."
Yeah, amazing.
Listen, 40 years ago, and it's still. And again, I know it's very faint, but that show is still talked about 40 years later.
The Henry Blake episode. I mean, the final show. By the way, if you still want to cry, go to that final episode. I mean, it is just one of those. I don't care who you are, and you're looking at this. It is. It's just one of those episodes that you're like, wow.
If you want to do a Friday's Finest, one of our drafts or one of our, whatever we're going to do, at the end of the show, we should do the movies and shows that make you cry. That would be a great episode, because I could probably name a million things, but the number one thing on that list is people coming home and seeing their kids, like veterans coming home. You could put that on. ESPN plays it once a year. Yeah. I swear to God, I must be watching the TV that day every time by accident. And I end up sitting there for 20 minutes just crying. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me right now? Anyway.
How is there always one of those on the hey, look, I'm an Air Force guy, but I watched, by the way, Air Force Commander-in-Chief trophy again this year. Thank you very much. But Army-Navy, the Army-Navy game. I mean, you got to watch it. And then the stories that come out of those kids. And I've had the privilege of putting kids into those academies and helping them get into those academies who actually played some of the sports. I can tell you some of those stories are just dead on real.
Have you ever been to an Army-Navy game in an Army stadium?
No, and I've wanted to.
Doug, I grew up in that area, in Jersey. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Jersey. And we used to get tickets for that. Those tickets would be, pretty cheap or free or whatever. They usually gave them out, whatever. The atmosphere at such a small stadium with that many, but it's packed in. I mean, packed in. And you get but you literally have the Army crowd and the Navy crowd. Yeah. And they're going insane. And they're doing all their chants. And you're sucked in. And I've been to one game where it went into I don't know if it was Army-Navy, but I went to an Army game and it went into overtime. There's a game-winning catch and all this stuff. I could say 100% certainty I've been to multiple pro sporting events. Nothing has topped that for me yet. Because that atmosphere gets you going. Your blood is pumping. You're in it. Yeah. Oh, it is. Well, so and
again,
a chance, go.
It is amazing kind of stuff, and those stories and match. So it's brought up a clip, and I marked this here. Look, upcoming, go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com. Hit me on email. If you see this on social medias, hit us back on social medias. It'll be a clip. Because I think one of the things James, we got to do is a best finales and worst finales.
Absolutely. I'm on board with that 100%. Right. Was there one more anniversary, Doug?
Yes.
It was Pink Floyd, was it not?
That is. You hit it, James. We think alike. 50-year anniversary, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. Dark Side of the Moon is the album you can play with Wizard of Oz. Is that correct? Do you know about this? I believe it's it's Dark Side of the Moon. If there's another album, please tell me. Where you could play Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz, and if you start them together, you have to get the vinyl. If you start them together, it goes with the movie.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what I was told. I think it's Dark Side of the Moon. I will ask my friend who's a diehard Pink Floyd fan to the nth degree.
Yeah. Well,
I think Dark Side of the Moon is the longest running album on the top charts, I believe.
It is 937 weeks on Billboard's 200.
How insane is that?
I mean, it's 15 million copies, 45 million units worldwide. It's just one of those. And to be honest, people know Dark Side of the Moon, but there's other albums by The Wall and others by Pink Floyd that people know better.
Yeah. Yes.
And
absolutely.
it is. It was. By the way, Pink Floyd's. Just a few facts on Pink Floyd's "Dark Side of the Moon," and what we're going to do here, James, is we're going to go out with some Pink Floyd music here in just a minute. But Pink Floyd, "Dark Side of the Moon" was the first to feature Roger Waters as the sole lyricist in it. The album was very nearly called Eclipse and not Dark Side of the Moon. Let's see. The original live arrangement of On the Run bore little resemblance to the electronic freak out on the record.
Amazing.
Money, which is on there, was interesting. This is interesting. Their influence, because we've talked about influences, when our songwriters are on, Booker T and the MGs was one of the influences on the song Money.
Oh, really?
Yep.
They have that great song from, I can't think of it now, but anyway, go ahead.
Yep, it is. It went also Dark Side of the Moon was the first to Pink Floyd to hit the top 40. Proceeds from the album actually helped fund Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the movie.
Well, that's the best thing that's ever happened because that's arguably one of the 5 funniest movies that's ever been made. So,
it is. Let's say something. But what you got me curious on? Where did you hear that? I mean, I've heard.
So there's this thing. I believe it's Wizard of Oz with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. So let's see. I'm trying to think. Okay, insert Dark Side of the Moon into your CD player. Press play. Once the album starts to play, press pause. Then press the track rewind to take you back to the very beginning of the track. I don't know why it does that. Set your CD player to album repeat and start The Wizard of Oz on DVD. Apparently, they sync up in some weird way. I've never done it. I haven't taken enough shrooms to do it yet, but maybe eventually I will, and we'll see where it goes. It's a weird one.
Here. Yeah, The Wizard of Oz, Dark Side of the Moon. It appears to go on the mass popular movie. It's one of the most popular films. It's syncable when Dorothy is listening to the Tin Man's heart beating while the album is playing a heartbeat, the wailing of the song, the great gig in the sky, when the tornado first appears, the scarecrow dancing wildly. Wow.
I mean, listen, I doubt they thought of that at the time, but I'm just like the idea that somebody found out about it is the craziest thing ever.
Well, as I was looking that up, and when you mentioned it, I looked it up here, and as we were talking here on the thing, there's actually a discussion on other movies that you can sync up. It's just like, this is pretty wild. Folks, we've covered about all we can cover for the day. A lot of good stuff today, from politics to 40-year, 50-year anniversaries. A lot of stuff going on in this as we go forward. But, James, we've covered another Friday. We'll see you next time. This is Doug Collins signing off on Friday's Finest here on the Doug Collins Podcast. Listen to some Pink Floyd as we go out. Hey folks, MyPillow is excited to bring to you their biggest bedding sale ever. For a limited time, you're going to get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with a MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. $99.99. Get a mattress pillow topper. Look, they come in all sizes. They got all kinds of stuff. Blankets. They've got duvets. They've got quilts. They got comforters. They got body pillows. They got bolster pillows. They got all that big discounts. And also, they're extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1, 2023, making them the perfect gift for your friends, your family, and for everyone you know. Folks, and just from a personal note here, I have the Giza Dream sheets. They're on my bed right now. I slept on them last night. Some of the best sheets that we and Lisa and I have ever owned. They are worth, at this price, they're a steal. My wife and I have bought bed sheets, linens at much higher cost. It's supposedly much higher quality. These from MyPillow are at the highest of quality, and at a price like this, you can't beat it. So go now to MyPillow.com, use promo code Collins, COLLINS, or call 1-800-986-3994, and you'll get huge discounts on all the MyPillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all your shopping done while qualities last. And remember, put in that promo code Collins for these discounts.